Welcome to Health Tech Talk. This is where business, healthcare, and technology collide. Our host, Ben Chodor, interviews healthcare innovators and industry titans who are striving to make the world healthier with bleeding-edge human ingenuity. You'll hear it all on Health Tech Talk. Now, here's your host, Ben Chodor.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Ben Chodor, and you're listening to Health Tech Talk, broadcasting from 640 WGST in the iHeartRadio studios and streaming worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. Thank you and welcome to the show, and thank you for spending your day listening to us. I have two amazing guests today. My first guest is Rik Deitsch. He is the CEO of Nutra Pharma. You're going to learn all about his company in a couple seconds. Rik, welcome to the show. I got to tell everyone, the audience, a little. What I'm really fascinated about by you is, besides your company and some awesome products you have and what you guys are building, is also that you're an author, a teacher, a scientist. I mean, you're like the triple threat in healthcare and technology. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me, Ben. It's a pleasure.
So I got to say, before we jump into the company, I got to ask you, you have two books. One of them is Are You Age-Wise? A Guide to Healthy Aging. And the second one is The Invisible Killers. All right. What are these two books about, and where can our audience find them?
They are both available on Amazon, but Are You Age-Wise was a guide to healthy aging. I was doing a lot of research at the time. This is about 2004, 2005, on the healthy aging phenomenon. You know, the baby boomers are trying to look younger, feel younger, stay younger, and they were getting scammed by a lot of dietary supplement hucksters out there. They were saying that everything was the next cure. So it was a nice little guide to say what works and what doesn't, what should you be doing, et cetera, et cetera. So, and there's a nice little quiz in there that tells you what your biologic age is versus your chronological age. So if you do certain, if you eat a certain diet, if you take certain supplements, if you do certain activities, your biological age can actually be less than your chronological age. And, of course, if you do certain other things, it could actually be greater than your chronological age. And that book kind of outlines that. And then Invisible Killers was really my passion. I was studying the concept of toxins in the environment, volatile organic compounds, heavy metals. These are in everything we eat, everything we drink, in the air we breathe. And these heavy metals build up in our bodies over time. These toxins build up and cause an increase in our body burden. As I was trying to research this, there was no one place that I could look that said, these are the toxins, this is where they come from, this is what they do to us. And so we decided to write a book about it, and that's Invisible Killers. And it's all about the toxins in the environment, where they come from, how they get into our bodies through food, the water, the air. Once they're in our bodies, what do they do to us? How do they increase our risk for disease and dysfunction? And the most important thing, what can we do to avoid toxic exposure? What can we do to get rid of these toxins and actively detoxify in a safe, effective manner? And that's really what it's about.
Two really, really cool books. All right, so you're a chemist, right, on biochemistry. You have an MS in biochemistry and a BS in chemistry. So you're a scientist, you're an author. How does that lead you to become the CEO of Nutra Pharma?
That's a great question. Basically, I was doing a lot of work in graduate school doing molecular dynamic simulation studies. I would take small molecules and put them on a computer in a force field. You know, we'd mimic a natural environment and see how those molecules worked in the body, in the blood, in water, and try to figure out how to make new drugs. And I was working a lot on cancer agents, chemotherapies, but the most exciting thing I did was cone snail venom. There's these snails in the ocean that are venomous. They sit on the bottom of the ocean, and they stick out their tongues, and their tongues look like a worm, and when a fish comes close to eat the worm, the snail will stab the fish, inject the venom, paralyze the fish, and then eat it. And the venom components were fascinating, so I was looking more and more into this cone snail venom work, and that led me to look at other venoms and other venomous animals, and this small startup company, Nutra Pharma, was looking into cobra venom, which was a lot easier to get than cone snail venom. And I decided to look into the therapeutic applications of cobra venom, and in 2002, I wound up taking over Nutra Pharma Corporation. And since then, now we have 21 patents. We have 9 products, 9 over-the-counter products that we're selling, and we're working.
Well, Rik, I want to dig deeper in that, but I got to go back because I know my audience is probably wondering this too. Cobra venom? So what is the benefit of cobra venom? And anytime you bring the word cobra venom and healthcare together, I think everyone should be interested. So what does that all do, and what does it mean?
It's a sexy story. I mean, first of all, we're not the first venom drug. There's a lot of drugs out there that were originally from venoms. I mean, we know Botox is botulism toxin, one of the most toxic substances in the world, and people inject it into their faces. Millennium Pharmaceuticals has an extract of rattlesnake venom that's used as a blood thinner. Scorpion venom is used in heart disease. So there's lots and lots of venom drugs. But the thing to think about is there any doubt in your mind that when a cobra bites you, it elicits a physiologic response?
None.
None, of course not. So imagine what it really does. These peptides, these small proteins in cobra venom, go and affect the nerves. They're neurotoxins. And when you get a bite, those neurotoxins basically shut down your nervous system. So your heart stops beating, your lungs stop breathing, you become paralyzed, and you die. But imagine that you take certain of those peptides, and you take an infinitesimal dose, a 1/10,000th dilution of those peptides. Now, instead of blocking nerve function, they help modulate nerve function. And big signals become really small signals. So the pain signal basically goes away. It's such a big signal, it gets truncated down to nothing. And so it doesn't cause numbness, it doesn't cause any kind of desensitization, but the pain goes away. Now, the receptors that these peptides bind to are also found in white blood cells, so it helps mediate and modulate inflammation. So inflammation goes away and pain goes away.
So basically, now from there, is this how the products got started at Nutra Pharma? Are a lot of them venom-based?
Yes, they're all based on different venoms and different venom components. But understand that the start of all this goes back to the 1930s. We didn't come up with it. The original drug, our drug for multiple sclerosis, was designed in 1934 by American researchers in China. And they were looking at post-polio syndrome, people that had polio. After they recovered from polio, would have all sorts of nerve damage. And they found that extracts of cobra venom, especially if they modified them in certain ways, would help these patients. Now, the problem was in the late 40s, when the Salk and Sabin vaccines came out, polio was in essence cured. No one was ever going to get polio again, so all the research went away for treating polio. And it wasn't until the 1980s and 1990s that people started looking at this research again for other conditions like multiple sclerosis.
So now you have drugs in cancer, or your products are used in cancer, infectious diseases, MS, which you mentioned, HIV, AMN, pain. I mean, so it's across the board. I think that's really fascinating. So are you constantly adding new products to the pipeline, or how's that going?
Well, we have three basic drugs, drug moieties that we look at. One is our autoimmune or neurologic drug, that's RPI-78M, and that's for multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, myasthenia gravis. That's our autoimmune drug,
yes.
And that's an immunomodulating agent. Then we have our antiviral drug, which is RPI-MN. That's a fusion inhibitor, prevents viruses from getting into cells. So we've studied in HIV and hepatitis C and herpes. But we could study it in any retrovirus, because by blocking the action of a virus fusing to a cell, it should, in essence, theoretically work in any retrovirus. And so we have a large canvas to look at. And then the last moiety we're looking at is basically our pain drug. That would be our injectable pain drug, Reset, which is something that we've only done phase 1 on, and we've kind of put it on the back burner. But those are the three moieties we're looking at, but it's potentially 100 different drug indications.
Well, I'm going to dig deeper after we come back from this break. I want everyone to know that we're going to be back after this commercial break. I want to thank 1-800 Public Relations for all their PR and media support. Also want to thank Stream VPG and John in our control room, and Scott and Jeremy for everything they do to put the show together. We'll be back after these words from our sponsor.
Talk Radio 640 WGST cares about you and wants to keep you healthy. During the Sully Show, you'll hear the facts, questions, and get answers. February is Heart Healthy Month. Listen to the Sully Show weekdays at noon for tips from experts to keep you healthy. Your Health Month on Talk Radio 640 WGST is brought to you by Trinity Air. Your comfort and safety is our only concern. The Trinity Air Price Guarantee guarantees their work. Honest, professional, and knowledgeable. Visit Trinity Air online at trinityair.com.
I remember the moment.
I'll never forget that moment.
As long as I live.
As long as I live.
Several of us were working to rescue a family.
The house collapsed on top of the cellar door and trapped them.
We had to use Humvees and heavy machinery to move massive trees and debris.
We got them out.
We helped a lot of people out.
It felt good to know I could really make a difference.
Because I'm a citizen soldier in the National Guard.
Be there the moment your community needs you. Learn more at nationalguard.com.
Sponsored by the Georgia National Guard. Aired by the Georgia Association of Broadcasters and this station.
I know it's old-fashioned, but I don't have a cell phone. So when my landline cut out, we just felt so isolated.
The power was down on the entire block. It was a Saturday, so the kids were home.
Hey, I wouldn't say that I'm addicted, but when I lost my cable and internet, I was paralyzed.
You have no idea what they put me through.
And all because my neighbors didn't call 811.
Be a good neighbor. Call 811 a few days before digging. Brought to you by the Georgia Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Not again.
Easy, you're on the freeway.
Sorry, I've never driven a car before.
What? Back at the dealership, you knew exactly what you were doing.
Oh, I know I'm an excellent candidate for a car loan. I pulled an 809 FICO score at Experian.com. I've just never been behind the wheel.
You know how to buy a car, but you've never driven one?
Pretty much. So if I buy this bad boy, I'm going to need you to throw in some driving lessons.
Get your credit swagger on. Become a member of Experian Credit Tracker and find out your FICO score powered by Experian. FICO scores are used in 90% of credit decisions.
Buying a car can be the worst. Scotty from the Power Morning Show. Unless you're using TrueCar.com, they're helping you save time and money. Two things we all wish we had more of. Helping you to never overpay. Users see an average savings of over $3,200 off MSRP. It's a pretty simple three-step process. First, you go to TrueCar.com and find out what others paid for the same car you're looking for. Second, register at TrueCar.com to see your upfront pricing information and lock in your savings certificate. And third, it's simple. Just print out your certificate and take it to the TrueCar certified dealer for a better, hassle-free car buying experience. Don't buy a car without using TrueCar.com.
All the wonders of the smartphone. You can check out WGST's Facebook page, listen to us on the iHeartRadio app, follow us on Twitter, and even call us. Use your smartphone to connect with us, and you're connected to your radio station. Talk Radio 640 WGST.
Hello and welcome back. And if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Health Tech Talk, broadcasting from the iHeart Studios in Atlanta, 640 WGST. And I'm Ben Chodor, and we're broadcasting worldwide on the iHeart Radio Network. And with me is Rik Deitsch. He is the CEO of Nutra Pharma, an incredible company. It's a really cool story. We were talking about some of their products before. I'm coming back. I want to talk about one product we didn't talk in the last segment, which is your pet pain away. So you have products also for the pet industry to, I guess, get pain, stop pain.
Well, yeah. What happened back in 2011, we launched an over-the-counter product for humans called Nyloxin. And that was, again, an extract of cobra venom, and it's registered with the FDA as a homeopathic. And we have an oral spray and a topical gel. Right. And a lot of people using the Nyloxin as an anti-inflammatory, as a pain medication, analgesic, saw great results, and they were starting to give it to their pets as well, their dogs and cats. And so we didn't even know that that was a big market at the time until people started calling us and asking us about it, especially veterinarians. And it winds up that there's really nothing for pain in dogs and cats. In dogs can get NSAIDs like Rimadyl, but that causes all sorts of side effects and bleeding and nausea, and so you have to use it sparingly. And cats, there's really nothing for pain in cats. Every pain drug causes kidney failure in cats. And so there's nothing you can give our companion animals. So here we have a product, an over-the-counter product, registered as a homeopathic called Pet Pain Away. It's an oral gel. It tastes like chicken gravy, and we worked very hard to get the flavor right. So it's a flavor that both dogs and cats love. They absolutely love the product. And within 1 day of using it, you'll find that your dog and cat feels better. They have more energy. If they have aches and pains, especially aging, from arthritis, from hip dysplasia, even old traumatic pain, you're going to find that they have a they're springing their step. They're jumping up and down on the couch again. We already have one veterinarian in New Jersey that has called the product a miracle. So we didn't even know that this was a big market, but apparently it's a huge market in the United States. Something like 80 million dogs, 90 million cats. In the United States alone, people spend over $60 billion a year on their companion
We care
animals.
more about our pets than ourselves.
Is in medications.
Yep. we care more about our pets than ourselves. I mean, we'll spend more money to take care of them, before we'd spend money on ourselves a lot of time. So let me ask you a question. How do you get the word out to the pet owner community or to the veterinarians? I mean, how does that market? Is it the same type of marketing that you would do traditionally with your RX products that you would sell to, physicians and pharmacies?
No, we've been working with the American Pet Products Association, the APPA, and it's a very disjointed market. It's nothing like human drug market. And so we are working with a lot of veterinarians. We do sell the products through a network marketing company called Lumaxa, Lumaxa. And if you go to petpainaway.com or Nyloxin.com, those are Nyloxin portals. Those are Lumaxa portal sites and lead to the distributor sites. And so there's ways you can order directly from the company, but for now, that's the network marketers. We are putting together sales teams that are going to start detailing doctors' offices, chiropractors' offices, and veterinary offices to get these products directly into the hands of the physicians.
So your company, Nutra Pharma, is in a big growth stage. You're really expanding, because I also noticed you're planning on launching more OTC, or you're spending more time in the OTC, which is the over-the-counter space for some of the audience doesn't know. So it's not something that a physician has to write you a prescription for. This is something that you can go in the store and buy. What's the reason and rationale of spending more time in the OTC space?
It's really just to be responsible. I mean, for the great life of the company, of Nutra Pharma, we were an R&D level company spending millions and millions of dollars in research and development. And we went through a lot of money. We were successful. We have 21 patents. We have a lot of drugs in clinical trials. But at some point, you've got to be responsible. You've got to say, how can I create a revenue stream for the company to make it stand on its own 2 feet?
Makes sense.
And create a war chest for clinical development. I mean, it costs upwards of $600 million to get a drug approved in the United States. It's absolutely incredible what's happened over the last 20 years with the FDA. And so our goal now is to sell Nyloxin and Pet Pain Away, and we do have a stronger version of Nyloxin called military-strength Nyloxin that we're trying to sell into the U.S. military to active-duty troops. And then we also have an equine product, equine-strength Nyloxin. And we're trying to build these over-the-counter markets to create a nice, steady revenue stream, increase profitability, and create a war chest that will allow us to really go back into the clinicals and then prove and eventually license our drugs to bigger players. And our goal over the next 24 months is to have at least one license deal in one of our indications.
So I love that. You're using therapeutics to fund your development and research. So end of the day, the core of Nutra Pharma is you guys are going to constantly build new products. You're going to constantly grow. You're not going to rest on your laurels. And I also noticed you put together a pretty amazing management team. So is this part of the master plan? Come out with the therapeutics on the OTC, build more products in the pipeline, put together an incredible management team. So the whole goal is to make your company more profitable and get to the next step. Am I reading it the right way?
Yeah, and to do it responsibly. I mean, if you look at our financials, we probably have, I think, a total loss of around $40 million since inception. But in real cash, a lot of that is in stock. In real cash, we've only spent about $9 or $10 million. And in that time, if you see what we've accomplished in that time, to have all these therapeutics over the counter approved and out the door, as well as 21 patents and all the active products with 6 published studies, we've done more on less than any other biotech company in the history of the world. And that's because we're trying to be responsible. We're trying to stand on our own 2 feet by the creation of early revenues, not just waiting for a blockbuster drug to get approved. And I think that's what investors really need to understand, is that we are mitigating the risk to these investors by creating these revenues, but also by doing a lot of open label trials and proving our drugs work even before a phase 2 study.
And I also think by the team you're putting together, you're not spreading yourself too thin. You're doing it very compartmentalized, and you're segmenting it out there. So you're still focused. You're not losing focus, which is something that all investors look for, is the company focus. And I always, as an investor myself, always look at the CEO first, right? And you seem to totally have your act together. You have the vision. And so if I was going to ask you, where in 5 years from now, if we sat down, what do you think we'd be talking about?
Well, in 5 years, we could certainly be talking about the fact that we've gotten MS patients out of wheelchairs. And that's really the reason I'm doing this. So multiple sclerosis is a horrible disease. It's eventually it's a progressive disease in all sufferers. There's 400,000 multiple sclerosis patients in the United States, and all the MS drugs are measured by their ability to slow down the forward progression of the disease, not stop it, not reverse it. We have the only drug ever studied in multiple sclerosis that stops the forward progression of the disease when you first start taking it, and within 6 to 8 months reverses the symptoms of the disease. So if you give me the average MS patient in a wheelchair in 6 to 8 months in our drug, for the most part, we have them playing tennis. And that's what we need to see. We need to get that drug out there to prove it to the masses, and that's as much as a $7 billion drug indication if we can prove it.
That's amazing. And is this a product that if you have MS, you take early on MS, or is this something where you're taking later on in MS?
That's a great question, because there's different stages of MS, and there's nothing approved for secondary progressive or primary progressive MS, only for relapsing remitting. We'd have the only drug that we're studying in all forms of MS, so it doesn't matter how far along you are, you would take our medication.
Oh, that's incredible. See, to me, that's the stuff that people go wow about. And if you're an investor, you go sort of wow. And if you're thinking about where you're going as an organization, that's what I'd want to hear as a shareholder. Where are we going with the company? What are we doing with the company? What makes us different? So tying into that, just stepping out just a drop, what advice can you give to someone out there, a young entrepreneur who wants to get in the biotech space? What are a couple things they should think about before they go down the road to build their company?
I think you have to understand that there's so many support companies out there. You don't have to do everything in-house. So many people want to spend $100 million and build out their lab and build out their science staff, but there are hundreds of great university teams. There's CROs, clinical research organizations, and there's a lot of government help. I mean, there's a lot of people at the NIH. There's a lot of people at the Centers for Disease Control. Depending on what you're looking at, there's a lot of help out there. So do your research, do your due diligence, and, of course, in early stage, the more grants you can get, the better. So if you find a really good grant writer, you're not giving away equity for that stuff. You're getting it's free money for you to do what you love to do.
And you're not going to do it perfectly. Everyone is going to make mistakes, but you got to keep on going. And I think one of the things is what I want to touch on, because I noticed you put together a really good management team, is it's really important to have a good team with you. You can't do it all yourself.
You got to look at all these companies that fail. I've seen hundreds of companies in the biotech space fail, and they fail for one or two reasons. It's either poor management or they're undercapitalized, and usually both. The fact is you can be undercapitalized, but if you have the right management team, you're going to be able to survive that, and vice versa. If you have tons of money, you can overcome bad management, but it's not a good thing. You'd rather have good management.
All right. You are listening to Health Tech Talk, and with me is Rik Deitsch. He is the CEO of Nutra Pharma, an incredible company. Rik, we have about a minute and a half left. What else can you tell our audience about the company? What should they look for over the next few months to hear from your organization?
Well, certainly I want people to go to NutraPharma.com. It's NutraPharma, and you can sign up for our newsletter, sign up for our emails when we put out press releases. But just understand that what we've done is really mitigate the risk to any investors. I mean, our stock has taken a beating over the last few years as we put this business plan together, but we've paid down debt dramatically. We've gotten rid of legal issues. We've moved the company forward, and now we're expanding our OTC markets. Our revenues are increasing dramatically over the last 14 to 18 months. We just got approval in India, and that's a huge deal. In India, the pain market in India is probably bigger than the one in the United States for three reasons. First of all, there's over almost 300 million middle-class people. That's the entire population in the United States. They have no issue with cobra venom for a therapy. You say cobra venom to someone in America, they look at you like you're crazy. In India, they say that makes sense. And then lastly, they don't like opiates in India, so they don't get morphine and drugs like that. And naloxone actually outperformed morphine in the last animal study we conducted. And so this could be the drug that takes over in India. So
well, I have to have you back on the show to talk about all the expansion outside of the U.S., but I have to go to a commercial break, and I want to thank everyone for listening to Health Tech Talk, broadcasting on the iHeart Radio Studios, 640 WGST, and we'll be back after these messages.